Along this highway, in a westerly direction from the city of Nairobi, lies a resource whose potential is yet to be fully appreciated. To those commuting along, this marshy sport isn't something to write home about. And to the local community, it is perhaps just a ground for grazing their livestock, let alone the abuse it has to contend with in the form of waste dumping. Yet Manguo Swamp, located within the municipality of Limuru Town, is a site rich in biodiversity, though that does not seem to appeal to the local residents in terms of direct economic benefits. However, there are instances of a few within the community who had conceived ideas that others didn't. In the late 1990s, there were attempts to develop Manguo Swamp into a recreational site. Testimonies to the effect were given during a workshop for Manguo Swamp project stakeholders.
Haja yangu ilikuwa kwenda kujenga mahali ambapo nitatengeneza recreation center. Kwa sababu Limuru kote tulikuwa tunaangalia mahali watu wanaweza kupumzika, hakuna.
Watu wengi hawajui vile tunaweza kupata faida kwa hii manguo. Sasa wanaanza kuelemika, na sana ikipanda hata ile miti ilikuwa pale ni kuvutia. Hata wale watalii wanasimama hapo huwa wanaona sasa kuna watu wanafikiria mbele. Hata ile ndege ndio tumepanda hii miti mingi sana karibu hapa, ndio sione pahali ya kujifisha kitega mayai na nini, kwa sababu watoto wanakuja na haribu.
The workshop, which was organized with an aim of sharing with the stakeholders the findings of the project's baseline survey, brought together representatives from Limuru Municipal Council with the local community and Kenya Wildlife Service, National Museums of Kenya and the University of Nairobi were its joint facilitators.
Ukitaka kuuliza ndio tujue tuko wapi, tutaelekea wapi, na kama tunaweza kufika pahali tunaweza pata faida yoyote.
And the following are some of the issues the survey looked into. The history of Manguo Swamp in as far as its origin is concerned. Ownership of the swampland. The types of birds that inhabit the swamp. The ecological units of the swamp resource utilization, water quality analysis in the swamp, economic valuation of the swamp, and management options and challenges.
There is this Kikuyu escarpment, it's very near you. Pia wamekusanyika, they want to hifadhi the Kikuyu escarpment for their own good, ndio tusipate hiyo mnyonyoko ya udogo, and then also the wetlands will disappear.
After an exhaustive presentation followed by an interactive session, the workshop participants were then divided into 3 discussion groups. The first group looked into opportunities and challenges of developing a community-based ecotourism enterprise, Manguo Swamp. The second group discussed management issues in Manguo Swamp. And the third group was charged with discussing institutional and community participation in wetland conservation, their needs and limitations. So, when the scientists embarked on water quality analysis, they sought to know, among others, the condition of the water in the swamp in as far as its biophysical and chemical status were concerned. Manguo, as a wetland, covers an area of approximately 20 acres. During the land demarcation period in 1960s, it was allocated to some residents of Limuru, hence the need to incorporate them in the management of its resources.
Nimediga out kutoka kwa map na it's about 70 acres. Manguo yote ikiwa imeshika hii mashamba inakuja kwa maji hivi yote na ile iko ndani.
However, the wetland is unique in the sense that it falls within private land ownership. It may therefore be both a blessing and hindrance at the same time in its development options. To begin with, the negative aspect is the fact that the local municipality does not have a right of control over its use. But on the positive side, it presents prospects of making the private owners to understand the importance of developing the swamp for their own gains.
Manguo Swamp is strategically located along the BC Nakuru-Nairobi highway, which is en route to the major touristic destinations, which are mostly based in the Rift Valley, like the Lake Nakuru, popular with its flamingos. Manguo Swamp would make a good stopover for such tourists, since it has an attraction of many bird species.
The term wetland groups together diverse landscape ecosystem units that are dominated by water for at least part of the year. They also vary from closed water systems completely covered by vegetation to open water with fledgling vegetation. In most of the peri-urban areas like Kikuyu, Ruiru, Ruai and Limuru, wetlands are mainly used for farming, grazing and provision of water. But as the urban areas expand, livelihood issues are being pushed to the edge, and gradually the wetland is being taken over by human settlement. In some cases, the wetlands are transformed into dumping sites which reawaken the old adage, wetlands are wastelands. However, it should be borne in mind that wetlands are among the world's most productive ecosystems, highly rich in physical and biological resources. Like other wetlands in the country, Manguo plays a very significant ecological role and has great potential as a viable resource of economic, cultural and scientific values. Its biodiversity includes a wide range of flora and fauna. It is a habitat for a variety of both resident and migratory birds, which include rallids and Afrotropical ducks and geese that are the dominant group. Others include red-knobbed coot, yellow-billed duck, red-billed teal, and Gargani northern pintail, to mention a few.
This is a freshwater swamp, and from our studies, the pH is about like 7, with very low amount of nutrients. The most dominant sort of fauna is what you call the avifauna of the bands, and you have both local and palearctic migrants. Those are birds that normally fly from Europe. And from the information to be able to gather here, we are talking of more than that different type of species that stay here throughout the year, and that indicates is actually very rich in terms of birds as an ecosystem.
Now that the findings of the baseline survey are so promising, it is envisaged that one of the significant outcomes should be to promote the swamp as an ecotourism facility.
We are also planning to come up together with the community so that we may look at the way forward on where to solicit for funding to implement the great ideas, like even of fencing, even trying to market the site as an important stopover for bird watching.
The word Manguo means a place of hippos in the ethnic Kikuyu language. However, accounts from even some octogenarians within the locality do not seem to shed light on whether hippos ever existed in the swamp. Even testimonies as to the origins of its water are neither clear.
Ritwa riri ritagwo Manguo riumire naku?
Ritwa riu ritagwo Manguo ri ni nguo kwari tene haria gicigirira-ini he handu haria gatagati ni nguo ciaturaga kuo mbere iyo.
Though the history of Manguo Swamp may be so vague, its potential as a tourist attraction isn't in doubt. It is important as a bird habitat that is proving popular with tourists en route to the Rift Valley, yet no efforts have been made to conserve it in a coordinated manner. It is with this in mind that the project implementers, that is, the National Museums of Kenya and the University of Nairobi, have sought to work in partnership with both local and international institutions to utilize the potential that the wetland holds for the benefit of the local community. Indeed, this will be in keeping with a new drive launched by the Kenya Tourist Board to market Kenya as an important agritourism destination. For that matter, when the Royal Netherlands ambassador visited Manguo Swamp, it was in the interest of seeing the project site whose activities they'd funded. And as a mark of that bond with the local community, the ambassador took time to plant a commemorative tree on a roadside close to the swamp. Incidentally, as a swamp, Manguo is only a few meters from Limuru town. Therefore, it was only fitting that the ambassador paid a courtesy call at the Limuru Municipal Council offices.
Manguo Swamp, we had about 3 objectives. We wanted to come up with information, work closely with people and collect good information like who owns the land, who are the stakeholders, what potential does it have. Because I realized that the government is putting so much focus on the big wetlands, but even the small wetlands are important to the community too. Apart from signing the convention, I thought we'd get down to all of the smaller wetlands which are near to the people, and we try to localize the Ramsar Convention.
Well, I think looking at the strategic plan from the Kenya Wetland Forum, that's looking at a quite broad scale on wetlands, and I think that especially this kind small projects, small swamps, of great importance for not only biodiversity, bird life, but also for water management.
What you are doing here, I think, in Limuru is really of critical importance for the eradication of poverty, for nature conservation, biodiversity promotion, but also for the encouragement of people to really take their own responsibility in order to promote biodiversity and nature conservation, but also in order to pull themselves out of poverty.
Annually, the Limuru area receives an average rainfall of 1,200 millimeters, with the highest being between April and May, and the lowest between July and September. It occupies the Lower Highlands agroecological zone with good yield potential for beans, carrots, kales, potatoes and fruits. The area also has a favorable climate for livestock keeping and sheep rearing. However, these farming activities have had a negative impact on the swamp as it is overgrazed with the livestock. Besides, the swamp is adversely affected by poor farming methods and cutting down of trees and vegetation around it. There is also the problem of dumping of polythene bags and other non-biodegradable materials, leave alone the car washing and cleaning of hides that goes on unabated. The situation is not made any better with the presence of these boys. After a game of football, they then turn their attention to the swamp, raiding its marshes for birds' eggs.
We also have the collection of the eggs by the local children, and that has got a big impact on the population of birds. We have seen about like one pair of the crowned crane. The fact that they've been here for quite a number of years, from information we gathered, could be the fact that the eggs are collected every now and then, and that means that the population is controlled by that particular fact, and that is actually a major challenge.
Wetlands, as ecosystems, perform important functions and contribute to the national economic development in many ways. In this regard, they should be accorded due protection as they help with the following: fisheries production, water supply, agricultural production, livestock production, mining of salt and minerals, recreation and conservation, wastewater treatment through natural process, source of wood and fiber, and ecotourism. It was with the foregoing in mind that in 1990, Kenya became a signatory to the Ramsar Convention. The convention is a product of an agreement that was signed by various governments in February 1971 in an Iranian city called Ramsar. The convention therefore defines wetlands as areas of marsh, fen, peatland, or water, whether natural or artificial, permanent or temporary, with water that is static or flowing, fresh, brackish or salt, including areas of marine waters and the depth of which at low tides does not exceed 6 meters. And in line with the declaration, Kenya has undertaken to implement the wise use principle of Ramsar Convention in many sites around the country by recognizing the values and importance of wetlands. However, there has been often a case of a forgotten ecosystem here and there, especially with the small wetlands when it comes to such issues as conservation, research, and donor-funded programs. More often than not, the focus is directed at larger wetlands such as Lake Nakuru, Lake Naivasha, Lake Turkana, and Lake Victoria. Even unique wetlands like Ondiri Swamp have not attracted any specific attention. Needless to say, environment management in Kenya in the past had basically remained in the government domain. Local communities, especially women and the youth, have largely not been involved. As a result, public utilities such as springs, tree nurseries and water storage dams, wells and riparian land have been taken over by private entities as communities watch helplessly. However, the situation is gradually shifting to community-based management system.
We will work in consultation with the local community, the Limuru Municipal Council, Nairobi University, the National Museums of Kenya, and other corporate bodies working around Limuru, like the Butter Shoe Company, the Limuru Milk Processors. Those are corporate bodies who would embrace an idea of environmental conservation, given most of their raw materials also could be affected by any environmental impact.
And we have been working closely with Mr. Dr. Denya and Jean, and we have facilitated a workshop which has gone a long way in trying to bring together the stakeholders concerned with the wetland that is called Manguo.
Therefore, if the dream of Manguo Swamp is to come true as a leading international attraction in agritourism, then the goodwill and participation of all the stakeholders have to be harnessed as the community waits in the wings to put into practice what they have gained from the baseline information. And the potential for success is so obvious, as Manguo Swamp lies in a strategic location.